Johnny here for Johnny's Car Care and Advice. So today what I want to cover is I want to try to figure out the fuel economy that we're going to get from the 2021 Ford Bronco. Fuel economy for the 2021 Ford Bronco is what I'm going to be covering today in this video. I want to do it in a much faster way than I did in my last video. So I'm going to not be explaining myself quite as much. We're going to start off with the 2.3 liter 4-cylinder turboed engine that the Bronco, that's the big Bronco, is going to be coming with. Now, I would expect this to get fuel economy like the current Ranger. And what's really nice about this is it's not going to be that hard to compare and to get, really good speculative numbers for the Ford Bronco. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because for me, it's really important. I think it's important for a lot of people before they buy a vehicle to have at least a really good idea on what kind of fuel economy they can expect. So let's get started. So in my extended video, I covered more at length why, and I argued really, why the Ranger is a really good comparative vehicle. Now, the Ranger with the 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine gets 20 miles per gallon in the city, and it gets 24 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but basically the Ranger currently uses the same frame, the same engine, the same 10-speed transmission, and because the Ranger is meant for off-road as well, has very similar gear ratios, so we can expect the 2.3 liter engine out of the new 2021 Ford Bronco to get exactly that. 20 miles per gallon in the city, 24 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, if you do 15,000 miles per year, you should expect to spend $1,750 per year on fuel. And if you're comfortable with that, but you're looking for more power, now there is the 2.7 liter 6-cylinder twin turbo engine. But finding or speculating with really good accuracy what kind of fuel economy we're going to get out of that 2.7 liter engine is a little more difficult. So let's get started on this somewhat difficult task. Now, what I'm going to use as a reference point is the Edge from the 2-liter engine, with it getting 21 miles per gallon in the city, and the 2.7 liter getting 19 miles per gallon in the city. Now, that's a difference of 9.5% for city driving. Now, I'm going to try to correlate this towards the Bronco. When we look at highway mileage, the 2-liter on the Edge gets 28 miles per gallon. And on the highway, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine gets 26 miles per gallon for a difference of 7.2%. Now, if we add that percentage to the Ranger's confirmed 2.3 liter EPA fuel economy rated numbers, we would get 1.9 miles per gallon less in the city for the 2.7 liter EcoBoost, making for 18 miles per gallon in the city. Now, for the highway, if we can correlate this directly to the Bronco. Now, for the highway, if we assume that we throw a 2.7 liter into a Ranger, highway miles per gallon would go from 24 miles per gallon. Then we remove 7.2%, and we would end up with 2.2 miles per gallon less, so about 22 miles per gallon for the 2.7 liter Bronco. Now, if this is true, we would then have a $750 difference over 5 years based on 15,000 miles per year of driving. So in other words, $150 per year to have that 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine. Now, my goal of all these Bronco videos that I'm making is to help people decide which Bronco is the right Bronco for them, and really if a Bronco is right for them. So to put this in perspective, that $150 per year that you're going to spend extra in fuel, if my numbers are correct, you're looking at $150 per year out of that 2.7 liter engine, and that 2.7 liter engine is going to cost 2,000 Canadian, or just under 2,000 US if you're purchasing your vehicle in the US. Now, if this is true, we're all going to have to decide what's more important to us, miles per gallon or smiles per gallon, because, when it comes down to it, it really boils down to whether you're comfortable spending that $150 per year more in fuel, and if you're willing to spend the give or take $1,700 extra for that EcoBoost 2.7 liter engine. Now, of course, if we talk power, that can be a very convincing point because the Ford media spec sheet is saying that they're going to be giving us about 400 pound-feet of torque from that 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine and 310 horsepower. But I'll get into that in just a little bit later in the video. However, I have a few problems using just the Edge as an example and as really a tool to figuring out Bronco fuel economy. So I want to look at the F-150. If you look at an F-150 regular cab 4x4, the vehicle actually weighs almost exactly what the Bronco is supposed to weigh. So it actually makes for a very good comparison. And what's actually impressive is the gear ratios are very similar. So let's look at fuel economy for an F-150. When we're looking at fuel economy for the F-150 in the city, it's getting 18 miles per gallon, and on the highway, 23 miles per gallon. Now, I'd argue with the fact that the F-150 has very similar gear ratio to the gear ratios that Ford is giving us for the Bronco. I'd argue that as long as you get your Bronco without really aggressive off-road tires, that you should actually get 23 miles per gallon in a Bronco that's equipped with the 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine. So, that's pretty good fuel economy and not a huge difference on your per year spending for fuel. I'd also argue that because the Ford Edge ST with a 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine gets 18 miles per gallon in the city, and the F-150 also gets 18 miles per gallon in the city. Now, of course, that's if we're taking an F-150 that weighs about 4,400 pounds. So that'd be the regular cab 4x4 2.7 liter EcoBoost F-150. Now, in both cases, the Edge and the F-150 are getting the same miles per gallon in the city. So, with both vehicles having a similar weight to the new Bronco and the F-150 having gear ratios that are almost exact to the new Bronco, I really think that we have a lot of evidence to suggest that we can conclude that in the city, the new Bronco with the 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine will get 18 miles per gallon. And because the F-150 has the same gear ratios, I really do believe that the evidence points to the fact that we're going to get 23 miles per gallon in the city. Now, what kind of fuel economy loss are we going to have if we go with either the Sasquatch package or the Badlands model, or another model that comes with very aggressive off-road tires, of course, is the WildTrak. A lot of the photos that you've been seeing in the video has been either a Sasquatch package, a Badlands, or a WildTrak Bronco. Now, I'm going to be covering that in another video. So coming up very shortly, I'm going to be covering a video that looks at some evidence to suggest that, we're probably going to be looking at a 7% difference when we go in for fuel economy with those big tire packages. And I'm going to show a bit of the math as to why I think it's going to be 7% in an upcoming video. For now, I just want to take a moment though to actually point out that if we look at the Ford Escape as a reference tool, the Ford Escape goes from a 3-cylinder engine to a much more powerful 2-liter 4-cylinder engine that has a lot more horsepower and torque than the 1.5-liter 3-cylinder engine. And in that situation, the highway miles per gallon is actually identical. So, we might actually get the 2.7-liter Bronco with 24 miles per gallon. It could happen. I'd say it's definitely not going to happen on the models with big aggressive off-road tires. And in my next video, I'm going to show why that is the case. But we have a really good idea that the Bronco should be getting 23 to 24 miles per gallon when equipped with a 2.7-liter engine. So what does this all mean if we compare it to the current, someone would argue, the current reigning king of off-roading, the Jeep Wrangler? What this means when we get down to it is that the Bronco should have very similar fuel economy to the current latest Wrangler. The current Wrangler is getting 18 miles per gallon in the city and 23 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, of course, that's if we take their 6-cylinder engine. And the reason I would compare that to the 6-cylinder engine is for the simple reason of looking at power. Because, fuel economy is fantastic, it's important, but we don't want to be driving 50 horsepower vehicles either. So power does come into the equation, especially when you're off-roading. So let's, dive into this. The Jeep Wrangler's 3.6-liter V6 engine is the right engine to compare to Ford's 2.3-liter EcoBoost, and that's because the Wrangler with that 6-cylinder is getting 285 horsepower at 6,400 RPM and 260 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Now, the Ranger 2.3-liter 10-speed is getting 270 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, so almost 1,000 RPM less, and it's getting 310 pound-feet of torque at 3,000 RPM, which is exactly 1,000 RPM less than the Wrangler's 6-cylinder engine. And this is pretty important because when you're off-roading, you want low-end torque. And this comparison also shows us that, while the Bronco is likely to get 15 less horsepower because it's speculated horsepower that Ford has given from their spec sheet on the media website, but when we compare torque numbers, there's actually a 50 pound-feet of torque difference. So you're getting more torque, you're getting it at 1,000 RPM less. So I think this 2.3-liter 4-cylinder engine is not a bad choice whatsoever by Ford, but I'm going to be covering that in another video. In an upcoming video, I'm also going to be looking at what likely third engine option Ford's going to be throwing into a special edition Bronco. So, the Warthog, I'm going to be looking at what I do believe is going to be the engine for that special model coming out, hopefully in a year. But now, just to keep this video a little shorter than the last one, to conclude, the Bronco should hit EPA testing with a 2.3-liter engine at 20 miles per gallon city and 24 miles per gallon on the highway. That will get you 275 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Now, the 2.7-liter 6-cylinder twin-turbo with 310 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, I really do expect to get 18 miles per gallon in the city and 23 miles per gallon on the highway. And because that engine has 100% of its torque, or should, at 2,750 RPM, I expect that 2.7-liter engine to be a fantastic off-road option, because of all its low end torque. And you know what? The 2.3 liter engine also has all its torque on the low end at 3,000 RPM. So both of these engines I do feel to be, really good options if you do plan on going off-roading. The fuel economy is good. In both cases, the fuel economy lines up with the competition. I will be doing a video on whether Ford will likely be using a 3.5 liter EcoBoost or V8 in a special model coming up, possibly called the Warthog. But for now, just to conclude on this video, I just want to point out that the 2.7 liter EcoBoost option, for the difference in cost for the engine and the yearly cost to have that engine, really makes it for a fantastic option. Ford has really given us a huge reason to buy a Bronco. Because normally manufacturers, when you want a much more powerful engine, you have to buy a much more equipped model, which means dishing out a whole lot more of your hard-earned cash. And in this case, being that you can add that 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine without losing a ton of fuel economy, you can add that to any model for an extremely reasonable amount of money, under 2,000 US. And if you are paying your vehicle per month, that's not going to make much of a difference to your purchase price monthly, whether you lease or purchase. So they're really treating us and giving us a great reason to buy a Bronco, because this 2.7 liter should be great for off-roading. I'm going to be covering more on off-roading capabilities in an upcoming video, but I really do think that we have a lot of reasons to buy a Bronco. The 2.3 liter is powerful, the 2.7 liter is powerful, and both have very reasonable numbers when it comes to fuel economy. So, if you found this video to be useful, please like and subscribe, and there should be a video coming out in just a few more days.